spook easily startled.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast.
Any identification on the victim?
Puzzle piece. But Jigsaw has been dead for 10 years.
It's not him. Can't be.
The truth will set you free. I'm chasing a dead man.
So afraid.
Live or die. The choice is yours.
The blood under the fingernails of our victim, it's John Kramer's the Jigsaw killer.
That's impossible.
Hello, Detective Banks. Do you know where your officers are?
Jigsaw?
Wait, I thought the Jigsaw killer was dead.
He is.
How can I catch this guy? If there's nobody on the force, I can bust!
You can't do this alone.
Whoever did this has another motive. Something personal.
Jigsaw copycat.
This is gonna go sideways fast.
He could be anywhere. He could be anyone. We're gonna tear this city apart.
Hello, Detective Banks. When was the last time you saw your father?
And welcome back to another edition of What's in the Podcast, Legacies of Fear. We are continuing on our exploration with the Saw franchise. This time, we are talking about the two outliers of the franchise, the odd ducks out, what were they trying or what were they attempting to do from here on in? So yeah, we are focusing entirely on Jigsaw, directed by the Sperrig brothers, and Spiral from the Book of Saw, directed by returning director Darren Lynn Bousman. But of course, as we have previously, I cannot do this alone. I have to do it with my partner in pain, Emily. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
And you all can't see it now, but Emily has what can best be described as doing a protest against Hawaiian luau's with the cutest pig onesie I've ever seen. And I've seen my share of pig onesies.
Had to dress for the occasion.
Absolutely.
Very serious topic.
Oh, immensely so. It's immensely. So, I guess after Saw 3D came and gone, it was like a good couple years after that we got this entry in the series with Jigsaw, and it's such a hard one to approach. I mean, since you were obviously more on it at the time, what was your going through your mind when Jigsaw was on the approach?
I remember I was excited that they were bringing it back. I was like, I never thought I would see another Saw movie. I kind of thought 7 was going to be the death of it, which, maybe it should have been. But when it came back, I was like, okay, it definitely doesn't look as corny as 7 was, because they moved on from the 3D stuff, and it's a little more, it looked like it was futuristic almost, so it was kind of hard to tell when it was supposed to take place.
More on that later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember even when I was back during my time when I was disinterested, when I saw that it was done by the Sperrig brothers, I was like, ooh, they could do something, because the Sperrig brothers were already pretty well established horror directors. They did a film Undead out of their native Australia, but prior to that, they did the wonderful vampire flick Daybreakers.
Nice.
Yeah, they did that one. So, and that one, I don't know if you've seen it, but Daybreakers is spectacular.
Daybreakers, yeah.
Yeah, great vampire film. So I was like, these guys could do something with it. And to their credit, it's a great looking film that, while it allows their own polish, like their own style, I never once had myself going, this is not a Saw film, aesthetically speaking. I was like, this still felt like a Saw film to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it does help that apart from the Sperrig brothers, it still had most of the creative team. Oren Coles and Mark Burke. That's right. Yeah, pretty much the same producers who've been working on it for ages. So they still had original creative writing, navigating the ship. But this time we even got new writers, Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger, on board here to write this sucker. Yeah, this one's a controversial one to say the least. So when you did go see it, take us through when you went to go see this sucker, like your reaction.
Confusion, which I think is what they were going for. I think it was purposefully confusing. I like to call it Jigsaw, the movie with the least amount of Jigsaw in it.
Yeah, well, ironically, still more Jigsaw in it than Spiral.
Oh yeah, but Spiral never pretended like it was gonna have Jigsaw in it.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, so then of course we get to the final twist where we reveal yet another apprentice who apparently has been there before Hoffman and before Amanda. What's his name? Yeah, Logan Nelson, played by Matt Passmore. And it's like it's Saw. I should be forgiving about this twist because, in soap operas you get stupid twists like this. But this is a hard. But in the terms of the execution,
I would say it's not the main twist. Because I mean, they kind of hinted at him or Elle, his assistant, I think she is, being possibly the killers the whole time.
Yeah, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and give us the synopsis of Jigsaw.
Okay, so this one I think is the only one that doesn't have an opening trap. Is that right?
Yeah. I think you're right. It starts off with the cold open of someone. Well, it starts off with someone kicking off the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the police are chasing. I don't know what his name was. I'm sure they harped on it later.
Yeah, they harped. Yeah, but basically, a guy's being chased by the cops. He's got a remote in his hands, and of course, the cops have him cornered, and he's like screaming, "People are gonna die! The game's starting.
The game's starting. It's either me or them." And
yeah. And of course
he gets shot in the chest, even though he wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be targeting the remote in his hand, which they do blow his hand off quite lovely. The effects in this movie, I would say I'm a fan of. Especially coming out of Saw 7, where I was like, all right, no.
Yeah. Oh, definitely on that one. So yeah, so this is, and they actually keep it contemporaneous. They do say this is like 10 years after the events of Saw
I think it's
3D.
supposed to be current day, which is 2017 at the time. 10 years after John's demise.
Yeah.
So he kicks off the game where we find 5 bucket heads in a room chained to the wall. And these are our 5 main victims.
Yeah. Of course, let's see. We have Hannah, played by Laura Vandervoort. We got Ryan, played by Paul Bronstein. So yeah, we have this whole set of people who all of them have their own dark little secrets, and very clearly the theme of this entire one is confess your sins. Like each of them have sins that they don't want to admit to themselves, but obviously through Saw mechanics, they all are forced to have to confess those sins. And I will say this is the part that did make me, which I was really invested in, because I will say they did a great job with the revelations of each of the people in terms of what kind of dirty secrets. And one of them has the dirtiest secret, like the one that made me go, oh, you.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, we are going full spoilers, people, by the way, but we usually tend to. So, you have been warned on that front. So, yeah, but all the while you've got Logan Nelson, who is a medical examiner who actually was formerly a soldier, kind of on the outs with the department, because I think he called out Detective Halloran, I think his name was, because he's a dirty little fucker.
Yep.
Yeah, dirty little fucker. So there's a whole cat and mouse going on there, because unfortunately he finds out that I think Carly is his or Eleanor is his assistant, who he discovers she's a bit of a Jigsaw enthusiast.
Oh, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like, surprising to me how many ingenious engineers we have in this city, and how many abandoned buildings we have in this city as well.
They actually do a good job here talking about about this farm, the farm that this one takes. Actually, one thing we haven't really talked about, which is kind of cool. You don't think about it because most of the time Saw movies take place in a derelict something or other. but they're never the same type of place ever. They're always a different type of location.
Which I think in Spiral we see like 3 different locations, and I'm like, how many damn abandoned buildings that used to be factories are in this city?
Hell, one of them is actually in the basement of the hero's base of operations.
Yep.
But in this case, though, they actually do say what the deal is with this farm. This farm was actually was on Jill Tuck's side of the family, that she inherited it, but it went on disused for a long time. So it's nice that they actually like clarified that.
It is a cool, unique change of location, because we're used to the industrial thing we saw, and out of nowhere, I was like, we're in the middle of like the country. Where are we?
Yeah, and they definitely use the farm setting real good with a lot of the trap options here.
Oh yeah.
So, though I will say the opening with the buzz saws, or with the circular saws and the bucket head type thing, I mean, it's a great video. Actually, what was cool is when this movie was about to come out, a Horror Nights actually did a Jigsaw house.
Yeah.
And one of the rooms was this room with the circular saws on the wall, and it was pretty cool to watch. And I will say, a Saw haunted house, I've been to 2 in the history of Horror Nights. They've done 2 Saw houses. They're always amazing to go into, man. They do such a great job recreating the world of Saw and immediately when you walk in there, you want to get the hell out.
Yeah, didn't Tobin Bell go through one of them? And even he was just like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for these poor bastards.
I can't fucking deal with that shit. I want to let this poor bastard out.
Oh, Tobin. Yeah. So, but this one really used the farm setting in terms of a lot of the. But actually, I was gonna say, they get out by cutting themselves, basically by a sacrifice of blood. That's my first tip off about the one caveat with the way they do this twist. What technology is there that the blade sense, or that it senses that they actually shed blood, and they actually I was like, most of the time the technology of Saw makes sense, but this one I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, there was that, and then one of the 5 people is like dead to the world. He's just being dragged on the ground, which I thought was hilarious looking.
Yeah.
And he wakes up too late to even know what's even going on. So they cut away from it, which was like the first, like, what? Oh, you got a Saw movie that cuts away from the gore? That seems odd. So they cut away from his supposed death, which we discover. Again, I was confused about how the blades work. They discover that he died from like the blade cutting the top of his head off through the bucket somehow.
And yet the bucket is still intact.
And the bucket's still intact. Yeah, I was like, wait, how? Because what happens is he dies, and immediately we find his body hanging from a bridge with a bucket still on his head.
Yeah.
And when they do the autopsy, that's what happens. They pull the bucket off, and his head's half missing. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did this happen? Like, what happened?
I'm gonna assume he put the bucket back on after the head got. I think that's
fully
what he did. I think he put a new bucket on there after the other one got. I think that's what it was. It
had to have been.
It had to have been. That's
that bucket was fully intact, but his head was half missing. I'm like, how did this work?
Yeah, but as we see, the customary puzzle piece has been carved out of him, but hidden inside that cut this time is a flash drive, hinting at the fact that Jigsaw is back.
Yeah.
Even though against all odds he should have been dead. He's been dead at this point, been dead for about 10 years. So
yeah,
how indeed.
I think that was the favorite line that they used in every trailer. How can he still be doing this when he's been dead for 10 years?
Alive? How are you still alive?
Why are you still alive?
Which though there's one line which I have to take some issue with, even though it's meant to be snarky, where they like, Jigsaw back from the dead. It's like, would it be the first time? It's like, yeah, actually, it would be the first time. He's never come back from the dead.
Well, right, but he's always had people doing his work after he's dead. So it's like coming back from the dead. These people are working as Jigsaw, like
Yeah, in Dr. Evil voice, came back from the dead.
Right. Big old quotations there.
Big old quotations, right? So I think the we have to do is kind of go through each of the characters who are in the trap plot. I mean, of course, our main focus is Hannah. This is the best part of the movie for me, is we have this character who we immediately establish is pretty damn smart and pretty damn gutsy, and is the one who really kind of seems to be the beating heart, like the one who seems to be like the best person of the bunch. Man, this movie played me. this movie played me so hard in terms of what.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was like so on her side. I was like, yeah, I'm sure whatever she did's not that bad at all. Like, no, not at all. And then,
Yeah.
god damn.
We'll get to it, but it seems like everybody's been lying. That's the main theme of this
Yeah.
movie is you're all liars and you have to confess what you're lying about.
Yeah. I mean, right. Then you actually, well, that's the other fun. This is what I love about horror in general. Sometimes it's like the best ones I've encountered. It's always fun to see. It's always great to see like the final girl win or survive or something like that. But sometimes it's also fun when the characters you least expect us to make it to the end do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ryan, well, I mean, granted, no one survives this trap scenario, but Ryan was like the one at the tail end with her, and he's like the biggest asshole of the bunch.
Which they did this they did it in 6 too, didn't they? Where it was like the guy who's like the tweaker who's obviously just screwing everybody 5.
Yeah,
who's
5.
Screwing everybody over makes it to the end. So they've done it before.
Yeah. At least the one thing with him is that he's a guy who very clearly felt bad about what he did initially. I mean, whereas Hannah, as we kind of discovered, didn't feel any kind of guilt for what she did, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're right. It sets it up like he's the douchebag. He won't call anybody by their name. He gives everybody these cute little nicknames because he's just a disrespectful guy. And then in the end, he's not the most like
I mean what he did
was
what he did can just be chalked up to like frat boy douchebaggery. But
yeah. Which I have questions about how Jigsaw knew about this teenage discretion of his. He knows everything by the end of this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do laugh about how he knows about Hannah's. It's just by wonderful coincidence he happened to be living right next door.
Yeah, and somehow through blinds he sees what happens. Like, very, very godlike presence that Jigsaw has in this movie. Of how did you know about all these things?
Yeah, this one does kind of elevate Jigsaw to a level of almost godlike omniscience. There,
yeah, I know everything, even if there's no way I could have known it. Even if it took place 20 years ago, I know about everything you did.
Exactly.
Jeez, John, get a hobby.
Man, I mean, I knew you were good. I knew you were a master engineer who could like, create loads of death traps in multiple locations while you have like horrible cancer. But I mean, damn.
So wow.
this is next level for you, man.
So. Oh yes, omnipresent now.
I think the thing that threw people off about this one, and I think why the twist didn't land for a lot of people on this, is because the technology that's being used in this farm scenario. Yeah. I mean, apart from, miraculously detecting blood, let's just focus on simple terms of the fact that they have flat screen TVs and
Yeah.
Which
it's supposed to take place before the first Saw trap, so we're talking previous to 2004.
Yeah. Let me see.
And Billy's eyes are glowing and he's moving on his own and
which I actually kind of like the glowing eyes thing. I mean, and
it worked for this aesthetic of what year is it? And I think that was what the whole movie's purpose was, is we don't know what time anything is.
Yeah.
We got laser tools that the surgeons are using.
Yeah.
That I don't think actually exist.
I have, again, I'd have to Google it actually, but I did just Google HD TVs, like the kind of TVs as we know and as are portrayed here, came out in 2005.
Yeah. So still a couple of years later.
I'm like, so did Jigsaw get a in with Panasonic or something and got like the first prototypes right off the assembly line or something?
Absolutely. Even though he loves old stuff, he's gotta get that new TV.
Gotta get that new TV. Is like,
even though I love staticky old TVs in my movies and rusty tools
and just basic tape recorders, which which I'm pretty sure John must have bought stock in that particular company to buy that many.
They had so many of those tape recorders.
Yeah, tape recorders, mini cassette tapes, and masking tape with magic markers, so he could write "Play Me" on all of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I like they use tape because you know what? You got to take the tape off. You want to save that tape recorder for later, for future houses,
future games.
One thing I thought they were going to do, even though logistically it wouldn't have made sense, I thought they were going to do the whole thing where they're on all of them are on these collars with chains
Mhm.
attached, and the chains are dragging them.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was gonna be a through line throughout the entire thing. I thought they were gonna
I thought
constantly
so
be
too. I was like, I when I rewatched it, I was like, I don't remember. Did they get dragged through this entire game? Because that would have
yeah.
been pretty
Yeah, no,
funny.
they don't. That would have been funny.
No.
It also kind of would have been suspenseful. It's like the idea, yeah, these people really can't go anywhere now.
Mhm.
Though
Mhm.
I think my favorite moment is when they're getting pulled toward, basically getting pulled and like are about to get killed. I like how they can't just like wedge the chain up against the post because all the posts are wrapped in razor
They're
wire.
covered in razor wire, yeah. So they try. They do
And
try.
there's a great bit where Hannah tries it anyway, and then she's like gets
Yeah.
run across, and I'm like, oh man,
Yeah. Oh,
that
God.
got yeah.
Of course, watching it again recently and knowing the twist and all that, I was like, I can see all the issues that would have come with the first viewing. Like I said, confusion is part of the plot. You've got people dying in the game and then immediately showing up for the cops to find afterwards.
Yeah.
Or that's how they're setting it up. So you're like, when is the game taking place? Is it done already? Are they just finding the bodies later? Or is he grabbing the bodies and putting them out in the open for them to find immediately? Like, how does he have time for all that? Like,
Yeah. It's like, what's the commute like from the farm to Cityton?
He's putting
You
some
know,
miles in.
yeah, to be able to discreetly
Cityton.
set up these bodies in these very elaborate scenarios.
Sawtropolis.
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling this city, is Sawtropolis.
You're right. From here on in, it is Sawtropolis. That
My
is
favorite
what
city.
we're calling it. Sawtropolis. That
don't
is
wanna
great.
live
You've
there.
heard it. You've heard it here, folks. It is called Sawtropolis. All right.
So I think the whole time I was just like, what is going on? Like, it didn't occur to me, the twist at the end didn't occur to me. Of course, when I saw it,
Yeah.
7
Well,
years ago or whatever.
yeah, and I think a lot, and I get why they use the modern technology, and it's very clear it was done as a means to throw people off, to not
Mhm.
have them suspect, because for all intents and purposes, this is the twist from Saw 2 all over again.
Yes, but I
Yeah.
feel like it is more to fool the audience than anybody in the movie.
Yes,
I
that is
feel like
exact. Yeah.
that was what I took away from it at the end. I was like, so the twist was just a middle finger to me? Like, nobody in the
Yeah.
movie got the twist because they understand the timeline. We're the ones who are being like thrown back and forth between future and past, and then being confused further with these bodies showing up for the cops to find. Like, when is all this taking place? We don't know. And they're
Yeah.
right. How is John doing this when he's dead, even though he's clearly running the show that we're
Yeah.
seeing that we don't understand is from the past?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Actually, now that you point that out, that is definitely a thing against this movie. It's like normally, yeah, it feels like the movie's trolling us when they should be trolling the
Yeah.
characters in the movie.
Exactly. That is what I took
Yeah.
away from this movie of all the other Saw movies, is there's no big moment for the characters of like, oh no, and then here's all the flashbacks that we've missed the whole time. It's like, nope, we're just fooling the audience.
Yeah, we're just playing with you. Yeah, and we're just, and also leading all to this big reveal that there was yet another apprentice, and doing the twist like this ends up putting audiences on the wrong foot in terms of, I mean, if you want us to get behind this new apprentice,
Mhm.
unfortunately you've left it open, like, and I was wondering if they were going to explore this shit like later on down the line, which they probably would have.
Yeah.
There is that whole question, where the fuck were you during everything after
Yep.
after that first
Mhm.
thing? I mean, now if there was a scene with Jigsaw where Jigsaw says, you are going to perpetuate my legacy, I need you to hang back. If there was a scene where he was told by Jigsaw to just hang back and let everything play out the way it is, I'd be okay with that. And I'm wondering
Which,
if
I mean, they kind of did with Hoffman, where he's also there throughout a lot of the early traps, but he's behind the scenes with him,
yeah,
not really taking part in anything until 3.
yeah, but even the fact that Hoffman didn't know about him, or even that for that matter, Amanda.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they wanted to move this forward, and I guess it like in the next movie they would have had like scenes with Tobin Bell and him talking about this idea. But as it is and the way it's delivered, it really does kind of put the audience on a very wrong foot. And I don't know how they were ever thinking that this was going to
I mean, it's
take
so
off.
clearly like, this is a studio telling you to make another movie when everybody's dead. And it's like, what do I
Yeah.
do? We just throw a new character in there and we
Mhm.
hope everybody's cool with it.
Yeah.
Which Which we'll mention when we talk about Spiral, but
Oh yeah,
it seems odd that this is the only movie I think Logan's even mentioned in.
yeah. I mean, I would like it if whatever they do with the franchise down the line, that they do address this idea. Actually, it would be kind of cool in Saw 11 if they talk about it.
Also, where's Gordon?
Yeah, exactly. Where's Gordon
He
throughout
was
this
in
whole thing?
7. Where is he now?
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if they thought that having Gordon in here would be it would give away the game or anything like that. I mean, Lord knows it just would have been cool to do it
I mean, he didn't
because,
have to be the main guy running it, but it would have been cool to have him on the sidelines. Like, I'm still
yeah,
here. I'm still watching, but I'm
yeah,
not the one doing this.
yeah. I'm really, really hoping that Carrie Elways, now that all that's been cleared up with the whole, I mean, actually, I don't know if you saw, he actually did show up for the 20th anniversary screening.
Oh, hey.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
which is actually pretty cool. So that tells me like, ooh, does this mean that we might get more Dr. Gordon later?
Yeah, I mean, they
Hey,
can definitely put him in 11. Why not?
yeah, I don't see why not. In fact, it would be kind of amazing to
It
put him
was
in.
after 1, so it could show more about him being indoctrinated, with Amanda
Yeah,
and Hoffman being there. Like, dude, it's the trio again. Like, they're back. Put
yeah,
them all in the same
exactly.
movie.
Precisely. I'm wondering if they just left him out on this one because I think they wanted to focus entirely on speed. Well, yeah, if this trip twist was just entirely to mess with the audience, I think they felt like involving Dr. Gordon would give
Mm.
away whatever game they wanted to play. I think maybe the problem when you have two new, because this was Stolberg and Goldfinger's first um this was their first time writing for a Saw movie, so I don't think they really had the ebb and flow of how to do it yet
Mhm.
on this one. So I think they just were fans and they just were thinking, well, everyone loves the twist, so let's just give them a twist.
Everybody loves a twist.
Yeah, and we do,
Yeah.
but we like a good twist.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I do love it in a horror movie is when a bastardly character keeps getting abused. I do love
Uh-huh.
that. And Ryan
Mhm.
does get abused to shit on this sucker, and a lot of it
Yeah.
by his own making, so it's kind of wonderfully satisfying. I think the best moment of tension in this is when Ryan gets his foot caught because of course he tries to disobey the rules.
Mhm.
And of course he has this rig that if he pulls the lever it'll rip his leg off.
Mhm.
But that but of course he doesn't pull it because he doesn't want to. But then you got the whole thing in the silo. Now, granted, I've never been in a grain silo before when it's filling up, so I could talk big and saying, dude, just keep stepping and just keep ascending above the
Well,
level.
I think that's what they were trying to do, but then they
Yeah.
start throwing sharp objects at him, so that
Well,
wouldn't have
yeah.
worked eventually, which is comical how that worked.
Oh my God. Now on one side, when it starts happening, I'm like, oh crap, oh shit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have to laugh about how many just perfectly landed on the blade. It's on the
Oh yeah.
blade.
Oh yeah.
It's like I'm just picturing friggin' Nelson just like at the top, just like how many more do I got? How many more do I got? And they, oh, I'm out.
Dang.
It was fun while it lasted.
You know what? We got a couple of good shots in. We had a good game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did get a really great bit with a circular saw like right
Mm.
next to Hannah's face, and
Which that whole scene was, I think, in the trailers, especially the pitchfork coming down and stabbing right in front of him. Like that was definitely a trailer moment
yeah,
of like, ooh, what's happening here? So my confusion with this game is Ryan has control over whether or not they get out of there. There
yeah,
was no guarantee Ryan was going to get stuck in that trap. And
yeah,
there was no guarantee it was going to be Ryan. Yet he's pre-recorded his name into the instructions. So I'm curious as to how Jigsaw knew he was going to disobey and get stuck in that trap. And if he hadn't, how would they have gotten out?
yeah.
So
And
this trap, because even he says that was unnecessary. You just didn't follow the rules. That's how you lost your leg. So I was like, okay. So that whole part of the trap was a question mark, whether or not he was going to get stuck.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I
was
think
like it
you're.
was meant to happen.
I mean, one thing I can always credit for John Kramer is like one of the reasons why he's always been good at like pulling the wool over everybody is that he does seem to understand human nature
Sure.
to the point to know that if there's anyone who's going to try to like break the rules and get out, it's going to be him. So,
Sure.
I mean, because one thing we have to remember, he did know Hannah. He did know
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
that the kind of person that she was. I
Mhm.
mean, unfortunately, Ryan is the kind of guy who will just impulsively grab 3 needles and inject, even though the answer to that
Yeah.
needle trap was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I was gonna mention too, the needle trap was
And
while I was
not the other
watching it, I
needle trap,
was
but this, yeah.
the John loves these needles, man. What can I tell you? They skis people out, and I get that firsthand from cons that they skis people out.
Oh yeah.
Walking around covered in needles.
I got to see it firsthand, and I loved it. I loved it. I think I even told Shawnee, I was like, yeah, no, people saw your cosplay, and every time they walk past, they just go, nope. And just go the other way.
Oh God, it's two reactions. It's you look great, or oh God, no. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Those are the reactions I'm looking for.
I will say now, after the substance, I think I'm good with watching needles and skin now.
That was so violent and brutal with needles.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. So we're good with that. But yeah, in this case, we have these 3 syringes, one each with numbers in them, and it's like it's pretty obvious what the number, which syringe was the right one. It's the one with the 353 on there.
But she didn't pick it, so I'm curious as to why she was so hesitant, knowing the answer. I'm curious what this game was supposed to be, because it was 3 needles, 2 are bad, 1 is good. Is that what I'm to understand?
I think one did nothing, 1 was acid, and one was the whatever it was she needed. I think it was like the it's because I guess she had been poisoned or something. Dang it, I watched it only just recently.
Right? I was confused because I was like, why didn't she just pick it? She knew the answer.
Yeah.
But either I was like, maybe it's because she didn't know if that was a good answer or a bad answer.
Well, to me, it was the right answer because Jigsaw even said, "What price would you place on a life?" or something like that. And it's like, well, the price,
something like that.
And the price she put was $3.53. Because
she didn't pick it, and therefore she got stabbed with all 3 of them. But I was like, what was the hesitation?
Yeah.
If she knew the answer, and they didn't know what the answer was, so she could have been. You said pick one and inject yourself with it. But the hesitation was, did she not know what she was injecting herself with? Like,
yeah.
So, and then the number ended up being the code to get them out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone, I think you're kind of seeing firsthand us realizing we in the beginning we were like, yeah, we was anything. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. There's a lot of wait a minutes that I discovered watching this a second time. I was like, okay. Especially knowing the twist at the end, I was like, okay, I think that's pretty obvious what they were going for. But this game made no sense to me.
Yeah. The other trap that was in this one, and this is the one that actually ties into the A plot with Logan and with Eleanor, where we find out her big old Jigsaw museum, is that she found out through discovered blueprints that Jigsaw had a trap which apparently had never been used, at least according to her. And what was it? What was the name of the website that they say was like Jigsaw
Rules?
Jigsaw Rules, yeah.
Like some 10-year-old made it on the dark
web.
Jigsaw Rules, man.
Yeah, Jigsaw Rules.
Dark web.
Yeah. And yeah, that there's a freaking blender trap that was never used.
The motorcycle blender?
Yeah, the motorcycle blender.
Smoothie? It is my favorite trap. It is my favorite trap of this movie. That is a fantastic trap.
It's definitely my favorite on a visual front. I think it's definitely the one that, I mean,
and what it does to him.
Oh yeah.
God damn.
It's like you'd have to be a Cirque du Soleil acrobat to be able to perfectly balance yourself, and keep yourself in a perfect straight line, keep your arm outstretched, do not swing. And then, I mean, the guy's like panicking and all that, so of course he's going to be swinging. But yeah, if he just kind of kept on.
Well, this is Mitch's trap. This is after they get out. Ryan's lost his leg. He's bleeding out in the corner, and these two have another trap to deal with. So Mitch, the whole story is that he sold John Kramer's nephew a faulty motorcycle with bad brakes. So he got killed. And now he has a trap where a motorcycle is powering this motorcycle smoothie, I call it, with a big old red spiral coming down in the middle. And he has to reach down and grab the brakes, which are at the bottom in the middle of this spiral.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the blades were actually supposed to be like red hot or something like that, which honestly would have been pretty cool right there. But they were like
just sharp as hell.
Yeah, and this is actually another moment which actually made me root for Hannah before I knew the truth, was because it was like she was actually like going out of her way to like try to save his life, and
which she could have. She stops the machine for a second, and instead of grabbing the brakes, he just panics and freaks out.
Yeah,
and then once it starts running again, that's when he gets all blended up.
Yeah.
I was like, grab the brakes, do it.
Yeah, it's like, don't just rely on the fact that this rebar is going to hold. Just
It's
go
done.
in there.
We're good. Like, dude, grab the brakes. You got a second.
Yeah, you honestly don't think Jigsaw thought of that shit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, his traps don't break easy.
No, they don't. Well, his first one did. His original one did, but you know.
Yeah, it still got the point across.
Still got the yeah. Yeah, that's funny because you said point across and the knives in the face and
because knives.
Because knives. Because they're pointy.
Dad jokes.
Yeah, we got him.
We got him here on the Saw franchise.
Exactly. Oh, we totally do. So many times. It's like
and he laughs at his own jokes, which I think is wonderful.
I think your capacity to survive a Saw trap is how good you are on dad puns.
What is your familiarity with puns?
Yeah. Forget the Chinese zodiac. How are you on dad puns?
Yeah, we learned Amanda survived, and then she started having her own puns later on. So yeah,
exactly.
You gotta have the puns.
We do. So after all that, all that's left is Hannah and Ryan in the other really polished room in this farmhouse.
God.
But lo and behold, Tobin Bell is alive and well, or Jigsaw is alive and well here, looking wonderful, I might add, and reflecting.
And before this, they in the cop world, the cop timeline, they decide we're going to put this rumor to rest. We're going to dig his body up and make sure it's in there. And it's not.
It is not.
Which do they ever tell us where his body went? Is he just gone now? Because who dug him up and where is he?
I just picture they just prop him up on a park bench, with a little bag of bird feed,
just living his best life right now.
Just dying his best life right now.
Yeah, that was another plot point. I was like, wait a minute, we never talked about where his body went and who dug it up.
Again, I have a suspicion that had taken off, I have a feeling like in the next installment they would have answered that question. I'm pretty sure, because
a lot of loose ends.
Yeah, because one issue I do like whenever they do the whole fake out of like there's another body in there, there's one thing that always no one ever addresses about that is like you would know, especially after 10 years, you would absolutely know if someone messed with the grave prior to you digging it up, because the ground would be completely uprooted.
Yeah, it looked fine.
Yeah,
and then the body was replacing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that, and then more of the confusing timeline thing is Elle has a replica of this motorcycle smoothie trap. Again, when did she build this? How much time did that take? And when was the game? Why is it happening at the same time as she has this replica?
Yeah, exactly. Well, she openly said she said she built that. She built that from specs.
Right.
Yeah, no, she did say that. That was actually one of the times I actually did clarify, is that she got the blueprints because legendarily this was a trap that apparently that he quote unquote never built, but he had the idea for, which of course put Elle on the breadcrumbs, realizing that another game's going on involving shit that we don't know about. But no, she said she built that from the blueprints that she found. So
that's fair. Okay.
Yeah, no, that I was like, okay, that's good, because there was a part of me like, because unfortunately, again, thanks to Dead Meat, I had already saw this, and of course everyone was talking about this twist. So I that was the twist I was like ready for. So
which I found it amusing that the whole movie, Logan is pulling a Hoffman and he's blaming everything on everybody else. It's Elle. She's the one. It's the detective. He's the one. And I'm like, you're pulling a Hoffman right now. You're trying to throw as many other people under the bus as you can so that you're not suspicious.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it's less about casting suspicion off of Logan. In fact, it's actually more about revenge. The whole thing ends up becoming a big old revenge plot against Halloran, because he finds out that Halloran is not only a dirty cop, he is a it's debatable whether or not he's a cop at all. With the shit he does where he, among other things, police brutality, planting evidence, having informants and letting informants go free. Only the informants are just as bad as the criminals that they're snitching on. And unfortunately, one of them turns out to be Logan Nelson's, I think, his wife,
Yeah, oh yeah.
who ends up getting
That's
killed.
definitely like his main revenge plot. Again, it's very Hoffman of him.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna carry on John Kramer's work in order to satisfy my own needs.
Yeah, though actually I will say I do like that Halloran actually calls him out on that. It's like saying, no, Jigsaw would give me a chance. Jigsaw would give me a chance. And it's like, but then
so you have a chance, you can scream or not. It's like, Logan, come on, buddy.
Logan.
Logan.
Shame on
You're pulling a
you.
Hoffman now.
Yeah, no, Halloran, for all his faults, he actually did exactly what was told of him. He actually did confess his sins.
He did.
And everything like that. There is absolutely no justification for this. But then it's like, but at the same time, though, Halloran was kind of a bastard. So and not only that, I'm gonna say this. You don't introduce us to something like a surgical laser awesome blossom trap and not let us see what that shit looks like when it comes to fruition, man. I was like, oh, you confessed? Oh, good for you. No, come, keep going, keep going, keep going.
There's no way we're not going to get to see this thing actually play out. There's no way.
And I'm not gonna lie, it looked cool.
Satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when his head just like blossomed out, I was like going, okay. I was like, okay, get the ranch dressing.
That looks tasty.
Looks tasty. Kind of thing. But yeah, and that's fun in and of itself, even though we get a I speak for the dead as opposed to our traditional game over kind of thing, which I don't know how I feel about that either. But on the other side, yeah, Jigsaw's alive and does the classic, this is the key to your freedom, as he holds up a shotgun shell.
Yep.
Which I know.
Which I love that whole scene while he's talking to them. He's fiddling around with this like saw box full of razors, full of blades, and then he just wheels that out of the room and he's like, here's a shotgun.
Yeah.
Shoot each other.
Yeah. Well, and again, I have a suspicion that that was meant to play into something there, because the Saw franchise has done that in the past where they'll introduce something which won't come into play until a later one. So
yeah,
that I wasn't questioning that. I was like going, oh, is that something that we're gonna see? Never?
No.
Okay.
No, that's why it's funny. He's like, you're messing with this trap the whole time, and then he's just like, anyway, bye.
Yeah,
Taking
bye.
this with me.
Yeah. So, but of course that doesn't come to it. All comes down to a shotgun, and again, Jigsaw doing this is your key to freedom. And I know
there's that, and then the phrase "point the finger at yourself," which I was like, that's very fitting for this trap, quote unquote.
Yeah, and it's here that we find out that Hannah very clearly never wanted to be a mom, and I mean,
John's omnipotence.
Yeah, and very clearly was driving her to the brink of insanity. So she smothered her baby and
blamed it on her husband.
Yeah, and her husband was asleep, so she put the dead baby next to him. He wakes up like going, "Oh my God, I rolled over on my baby," and from the very clearly his very fragile mind hung himself.
Yeah.
Afterwards, so, and I think. And normally I'd say, like, wouldn't someone feel that kind of guilt? But I'm like, this woman smothered her baby in a fit of insanity. I think it's
and even when they're like, what are you lying about? She's like, nothing. Like, dude, you're so convincing yourself that you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
oh
in pure sociopathic fashion. Well, yeah, to her, she didn't do anything wrong. She's like, yeah, she's saying, I mean, there's a wonderful movie called Placenta the Bone Woman, and which kind of tackles a similar thing of a woman who gets forced into having a kid. But even that, and there's a scene where she puts up her baby in a refrigerator, and even that didn't go as far as this did. This person meant to do that, and it's like deliberately. At least in Placenta, it was like a, hallucination. But damn, yeah, that was the thing that just made me go, damn, I was rooting for you all the way through. I was rooting for you, and that was
never root for the people you think you're gonna root for in Saw.
Absolutely not. Well, except Jigsaw. Yeah. Except Jigsaw.
So she grabs the shotgun and is like, I'm sorry, I have to kill you. Just straight up. And at the very last second, he's like, wait a minute.
He said, turn this back on yourself.
Point the finger at yourself. And I was like, yeah, that's gonna backfire. And so she shoots herself accidentally.
Yeah.
And in the midst of doing that, destroys both of their way to get out because their keys are in the shotgun.
And shell. Oh my God.
How did you do that?
So perfect. So good. Yes, it just goes to show when Jigsaw's on the scene, that's when you get like a nice classic, a great classic, fucked up. We could have survived, but then just
Yep.
nope.
Always good. Always good.
Always good. It's so good. And again, Jigsaw holds it up, holds up the
Yep.
shotgun shell,
This is the
saying, "This is
key
the
to your
key to your
freedom."
freedom."
Like you gotta take everything he says, not how you think it is.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Dig
but
deeper.
and for us, the audience. Now, I will say this in defense of the characters: we, the audience, are so used to we
Sure.
are
Sure.
accustomed to that. These are
Mhm.
people who are experiencing this whole thing for the first time, so they are
Sure.
not aware of his propensity towards
Mhm.
uh, dad joke foreshadowing. So
That's true. Yeah, no, that's
yeah,
absolutely true.
yeah. So I can understand. And again, they're also in a state of emotional distress. I
Which
get it.
I think now thinking about it, I think 2 is the only one where you had somebody who has been in the game before back. Even though she's on his side, but she's back to kind of assist.
But which one?
2. So
Oh,
Amanda's
two.
back because
Oh,
she's
you mean
played the
Amanda?
game
Yeah,
before. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, and that was actually kind of cool. Is that when you see Amanda, her first thing she's immediately doing is gotta find the thing, gotta find the
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Before you knew the truth about Amanda, you're like Amanda's like I gotta find the thing, find the thing.
Right.
Because
Yeah. It's like it's the only
yeah,
one who's ever been like I've played before. So I
yeah,
know how this guy thinks. And you should
exactly.
listen to me.
Ah, all right, so that is yeah. So I think you've already said your favorite trap in Jigsaw. I think for me, these weren't. I mean, I think I'll lean on the blender just because. No. Awesome Blossom lasers. That's me.
Awesome blossom lasers, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say I do love how Halloran realizes that he just got fucked because
Mm-hmm.
he looks up at his and sees
Yeah.
that it's actually singeing the ceiling, but he looks
Mm-hmm.
over at Logan's side and sees that nothing that the ceiling on his side is fine. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
oh
Fake
yeah,
lasers. Which
yeah,
for all the blood that spewed out of his face from that fake out, he had a very clean face when he stood up. Like,
continuity.
my God.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that is
Yeah.
Jigsaw. I mean,
Who
it's
knows if we'll
entertaining.
ever come back to any of this again, but uh so far Logan's a one-off
Yeah.
movie.
I I would like it if they continued on with it, just so that way it's kind of like I said this when I was talking about Seed of Chucky earlier and how this TV series Chucky, kind of like Cobra Kai. I like the idea of how they've been taking things that even from the lesser stuff, it and just say, you know what, it's here, it exists.
Mhm.
Let's continue delving into it and possibly actually do what we can to make it better, or at the very least justify it. So
Yeah,
I'd like them to actually own up to it and actually keep it and actually like do something with it later on.
which I mean they could have in Spiral for whatever reason. They don't even mention Logan in
Yeah,
Spiral, which they didn't have to bring him back, but they could have been like, this is something we could look into. He was the last Jigsaw apprentice.
yeah. And speaking
Maybe.
of which, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Let's go ahead and talk about
Okay.
Spiral from the Book of Saw, directed by directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, his first one back. Now, this one has a very interesting impetus, like where this one came from. Now, apparently, returning screenwriters Stolberg and Goldfinger, they were writing what I'm assuming what inevitably became Saw X. But word got out that Chris Rock is a major fan of the Saw franchise. Like he said, he loves it, and he always said he wanted to be in one, and he also said he wanted to kind of have some fun with it, like actually put a little bit of humor into it.
Mhm.
Well, producers Oren Coles and Mark Burr got word about that and immediately said, "Drop what you're doing. We're going to do a Saw movie with Chris Rock." And the results are interesting, to say the least, on this one. I mean, they brought back Darren Lynn Bousman, of course, because he's directed some of the best Saw movies in there. So they wanted to do something that brought back to the Saw aesthetic, but at the same time tried to do something new.
Mhm.
So
They definitely accomplished both of those.
yeah,
It's definitely something new. All the elements of Saw are kind of there, but they're different.
yeah, recognizably Saw, but in their efforts to kind of usher the concept of Saw into another realm,
Mhm.
I think it's a big success. So to kind of kick us off, go ahead and let's give us a synopsis of Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Well, we're gonna start off at a parade. It looks like a Chinese New Year's parade kind of thing, where a cop witnesses somebody pickpocketing a woman, so he chases them down, only to find that they went down into a sewer, which I think is hilarious. His comment on that is, "You did not just go down there." So, sewer. It's a subway train line. Follows him down there, only to be trapped, and we discover that the games are still happening.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. Well, in this case, they make it abundantly clear that this is definitely a different one because instead of the beloved Tobin Bell voice this time it is this awesome kind of digitized voice.
Hello, Detective Banks. Do you know where your officers are?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I admit I'm kind of a fan of. I was like the kind of androgynous sound of that voice paired with it being obviously put through a computer filter. Yeah, so there is something kind of mechanical and kind of inhuman about it.
Sure.
As well. So, but yet still spouting the same kind of Saw rhetoric with, of course, I want to play a game. And we still get pig imagery, but not Zodiac related this time. This time it is pretty much flat out, saying dirty cops, piggies.
Yeah. It's very much geared towards cops. This whole plot is attacking the cops.
Yeah.
They are the victims this time.
Yeah, which is funny. There's a line in here which I have to call bullshit on, where they say like, why is Jigsaw never targeting cops? I'm like, Detective Carey would beg to differ on that. Detective Matthews would beg to differ on that.
He targeted corrupt cops, and that's very much what this killer is also doing.
Yeah, well, actually, this one specifically is focusing on targeting dirty cops, and so our main character is Zeke, played by Chris Rock, who
Zeke Banks.
Yeah, Zeke Banks, who I actually would say is a very compelling character because of his background. He is someone who very clearly is an honest cop, trying to follow the examples of his father, played by Samuel L. Jackson,
who was the chief
of
police
the chief
back in the day.
Yeah, who has since been a pariah in his department because he had the balls to call out his partner who killed a witness right in front of him.
Yeah.
And of course, because now one key plot point in this one, which is interesting, is something called Article 8, which was something that was passed in order to grant cops unlimited power because apparently crime was running rampant, and and they said, by any means necessary, do what you can, and of course cops abuse that power. Oh, big shock. Oh, big shock. So
how is that going to turn out in Sawtopia, where everything is running rampant in crime?
This one definitely is not in Sawtopia. This is actually in a different region, I think. I think they were very hell-bent to show that this is a different
all these cities
place.
Look the same to me.
Yeah. I mean, by the cityist.
I'm sorry. Was it New York or Toronto? I don't know. They all look the same to me.
It kind of looked very Chicago-y to me. Not that I've been, but it had a very Chicago-y kind of edge to it. Then again, I don't know if Chicago has subways, but
sure.
I know they've got L trains. I know they got L trains. So there's this whole thing where a bunch of the cops in the department are corrupt as hell, but of course all of them hate Zeke because he had the balls to call them out. But now here is a Jigsaw copycat coming along to specifically target dirty cops. So I can only imagine this one felt really odd to you. And I know that my friend Matt, a Killer Horror Critic, openly says he's not a big fan of this one. But for you, who's been a dyed-in-the-wool Saw fan for a long time, I mean, how did this one feel to you compared to the rest?
I think I described it as it was an entertaining cop movie. It felt more like a cop movie. It kind of felt like a well-done Saw knockoff.
Yeah.
If you could say that. It's if they made a movie like this and didn't say from the Book of Saw, people would have been like, it's a Saw knockoff because it's got traps and it's got the whole revenge and the cops and the detective side of things. It looked and felt like a Saw movie, but it felt really off.
Yeah.
The Billy's been replaced by like a creepy pig.
Mr. Snuggles.
Mr. Snuggles, a creepy pig cop puppet.
Yeah. But even better is that it's a cop puppet. Yeah, it's a puppet. It's a marionette, which I will say that imagery does come to pay off really in spectacular fashion at the tail end of the movie, which we we'll get to later on. But this one with Darren Lynn Bousman coming back to direct it, actually, that was a wonderful return to form because we got, even though we didn't get the cool transitions like we got last time, we still got some pretty damn amazing camera work here. There's a one great, as they're going down into the subway to find the remains of the first victim, that camera follows them like all the way down there, and yeah, it's such a great visual. I love that one. Compared to Jigsaw, how'd you feel the traps were on this one?
Definitely the gore was there. I definitely cringed specifically on the Chinese finger trap.
Yeah.
Trap. It's the slow, painful ripping of body parts. Same with the tongue. Just like everything looks very painful.
Exactly.
It's a lot. It's a lot of like, you could end your suffering if you just ripped it off like a band-aid, but we're gonna drag it out and make you squirm.
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of those particular kind of saw traps where it's like you have to ask yourself, what's more preferable, being dead or living with some kind of mutilation?
Horrible disability, yeah.
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 And yeah, actually, I think that's the stakes of all of them. I mean, even let me see.
Almost. I honestly think Amanda had it easy as far as some of these traps go because she didn't have to mutilate herself to get out.
She just had to
physically. Mentally, she probably did. Yeah.
Yeah, to basically disembowel a corpse, but which it's one thing when it's Well, yeah, she didn't know it was still alive. Yeah. Actually, let me see.
Well, she did when she dove that knife and she knew he was alive.
Oh, she definitely knew. But yeah, you have Marisol Nichols, who played Captain Angie Garza. She had, I would probably say, the most fucked up of the bunch because she had to basically paralyze herself if she wanted to survive.
Oh yeah. It's like, what kind of life are you having after that? That's rough.
Yeah. I mean, that is rough, but but again, when you find out the truth about practically every single person who's in these traps, it's like, you kind of brought it on yourself, everybody.
So we should probably mention that the cops that he's targeting, the police force that he's targeting, all have to do with this case that Zeke was involved in back in the day. He's the cop that calls out his partner for being corrupt, and seems like in this whole group he's the only one who's willing to do that, and he gets shot for it in the end too, which is like, you paid the price for that as well.
There comes a point when
shitty force you're in.
Yeah, Zeke is like, in the aftermath, Zeke is calling for backup, and one of them, this one asshole, who gets, Detective Fitch just says, fuck him, and not probably thinking like, that little bitch probably is just overstating or something like that, and it's like, no, shots are getting fired. Is like, oh shit, and then Samuel Jackson comes in, and pure, because of course he was the chief, came in, and I'm like, dude, don't piss off Samuel Jackson.
Like, who just let my son get shot? He called for backup 3 times in the last 7 minutes. Where were you guys?
Yeah, you were the closest officers on duty. You don't think we can track that shit? Yeah. It's like, not enough that he's the chief of police, but it's Samuel Jackson. Oh, now we have spent many of wonderful, hilarious words have been said about John Kramer's hip with the kids do over for his flashback in Saw 3D. But man, did Chris Rock and Samuel Jackson double down on that shit in a freaking flashback.
Dude, just give him some facial hair and some,
gave them both 70s porn stashes. And Chris Rock is also wearing a backwards cap, but he's wearing a Def.
Oh yeah.
Chris Rock in this is looking like 90s Chris Rock when he was on Def Comedy Jam.
Yep.
They
knew exactly what they were doing. They're like, we're gonna double down on this hilarious joke.
I would love to be Darren Lynn Bousman to ask him that. It's like, was that a deliberate choice as a nice little jab at
the backwards hat? Are you kidding me? They did it again.
Again, but backwards hat definitely looks better on Chris Rock than it does Tobin Bell. But then you put him in a porn stash with the handlebars.
Both of them, just like, oh yeah, you guys are so young now.
Oh yeah, so young, so much younger.
Did it.
Oh dear God. But it all boils back to the fact that everyone's talking about how great Zeke's dad is. And like, they're all saying like, man, he was an inspiration to the force and everything like that. But as we peel back the layers, we discover that no, he was pretty much the nerve center of the corruption because of Article 8, because he championed it, saying like, crime was out of control, cops were too bound by the rules, we had to he was very much doing the ends justify the means in his book, where he said that we needed to be rough because shit was rough, and it's like, no, dude.
Breaking the rules, which you can see it, they've tightened it up a little bit because the opening thing Zeke does is he's doing an undercover job that was not sanctioned, and so he gets punished by getting a rookie partner, which is William
Shank, yes, played by Max Minghella.
Mm-hmm.
And in all these scenarios, it's always a rookie cop who's like very almost like a detective, like Judge Anderson in Dredd, who's like, oh wow, gee willikers, I want to like do my part and everything like that, do good for the force and all that.
And it's always this veteran cop that doesn't want his rookie partner. It's like I've seen this a million times before in so many different cop movies.
They actually do a good job building on this partner relationship afterwards, and I do like a lot of the back and forths with it. Like, and I'm always a big fan of actually William Lustig's Relentless had something like this where it's like the kind of fresh cop with the veteran cop, and both of them are kind of trading notes or kind of like sharing experiences. I really think this is where I do think Spiral worked, was that you do have these moments where they do talk about their experiences. Are we good to reveal the truth about Shank at this point?
No, not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
Nah. Because we're going to talk about why that was, in my opinion, a little more obvious.
Yeah, kind of was. I think the essence of a good Saw twist is less about one aspect being obvious, but so long as it segues into something better, which I will say this one does segue into something pretty great at the end of it. But yeah, you are right that the twist surrounding Shank is pretty obvious. Even when they
the
tried
red
to pull
herring
a
of
fake out.
him, right, and that's to me where it was like the most obvious. I was like, okay, so
it's like Shank died by getting kidnapped and skinned. I was like, that.
Yeah, they didn't show his game, didn't show what. That seems a little suspicious.
Yeah, it's a little sus.
Least,
at the very least, it would be in a game scenario that you'd see him get, but there was no game scenario that we're seeing here, so that didn't sound right.
Seems a little off.
Seems a little sketchy.
So this one, I have notes about, like, this has probably the most like diverse abandoned factories I've ever seen in a Saw movie. You got the bread factory. There's like a soap factory.
A
there's
glass factory.
The glass factory. There's so many factories that still have running, working mechanics, but nobody runs it anymore.
Yeah.
Perfect for a Saw hideout.
Yeah, and actually one trap revolves around Zeke's former partner, who has since been, though, fuck the justice system that this guy only got like 6 years and probation. Like, no, fuck, this guy should have been a lifer because of the shit he pulled. I mean, because he shot a guy down in cold blood. Well, and not only did he murder him, but basically did so interfering with an investigation.
Yeah, that definitely should have been a lot more harshly punished, but here he is running a church group now.
Yeah, running a church group. So yeah, and from his tone, he definitely sounds like he is sincere in his efforts to reform.
No, Jesus loves you. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than you.
Yeah. Actually, let's go ahead and get into that. Chris Rock, a lot of the comedy dialogue, like a lot of the humor, was improvised by him. Now, how do you feel that? Do you feel that coalesced with the movie?
I think this one it did, yeah. They definitely had a different tone to it altogether with the location and the main characters, and him and Samuel L. Jackson. It's like, you guys had a good dialogue together. This strained father-son relationship that was also like, what are you, hungry? You want to go get some food? Like, it was more comedy, like more real. I think it didn't feel like it was forced comedy.
And Chris Rock actually volunteered. He's like saying, don't worry about, he actually told the producers and the writers, don't write any comedy. You just write, you just do what you do best. You write a Saw movie. I will throw in comedy where I see fit.
Yeah, I thought that worked.
Yeah, and I think because Darren Lynn Bousman and everyone actually had faith in Chris Rock, because of course Chris Rock is, a celebrated comedian. I think it was a good move to just let his instincts take over because, I mean, kicking off your intro with him with a big whole breakdown of Forrest Gump is jarring, but once you get to know his character, you come to the realization that's kind of right. And yeah, I've always thought about the fact that Forrest Gump may have got AIDS.
Oh, of course, everybody who brings up like major villains in movie history, they always comedically talk about Jenny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, gave Forrest and their son AIDS, and I like it was like saying, he seemed fine. He's like, yeah, I didn't see a sequel.
I didn't see a Gump too. accurate. We've all thought about this.
All thought about it. Yeah, we did. So it was such a, and not only that, it's unusual for Saw, like a Saw movie, to make pop culture references or anything like that. It was, I will say, when I first saw this, and I was prepped for it, I was like, I knew from everyone saying this is different from the rest, that it's the, a lot of people have since called this the Friday 13th Part 5 slash Halloween Ends of the franchise. And I'm like, first off, I love both of those, so that's good for me.
Yeah, it's a black sheep of the franchise.
Yeah.
That's what I would call it. But I mean,
Yeah.
they consider it Saw 9 at this point because the
Yeah,
next movie is 10.
Yeah, they embrace it. They embrace it. And I think the other reason why I'm good with it, and I think we talked about this earlier, I always felt that the next step for the franchise after Saw 7 was to follow on with the idea that Jigsaw created a cult, or kind of like a, not so much a cult, but like
the
a,
cult
almost
of
like,
Saw.
yeah, like the cult of Saw, just this whole idea of people following his example. Because by this point, his philosophy will have gotten out, what he did, his modus operandi, what his intent was. And that there's going to be people out there who are going to follow his example. And to me, I thought Spiral was actually a solid progression of that idea. And like any religion, someone's going to come up with their own variant of that.
Yeah. They definitely harped on the Spiral, of course, the name of the movie, which I found interesting because I was like, John didn't really harp on the Spiral at all.
Yeah.
It was something on his puppet, and like every now and then you saw the imagery of it, but like they explained it in this one as like it's the beginning and the end, it's the progression. Like came up with a whole purpose for the Spiral.
Yeah, I actually dug that. Honestly, when he said that out loud, I was like, I really like. I actually felt there was some, compared to Jigsaw, I actually felt there was some legit thought put into what I felt like they were actually trying to evolve the aftermath of Saw, a heck of a lot more than Jigsaw did. I felt like they were really trying to evolve the aftermath of Saw 7 with Spiral versus what they did with Jigsaw in this case. This actually felt more logical than Mystery Apprentice, absentee who had early access to Panasonic televisions. I don't know, this just worked for me. I was actually really good with everything this one did. And I'm gonna say it was also funny. It actually was like funny in the right ways.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't know how IA is gonna advocate someone who, calls out cops, dirty cops, but then will attack an informant, take a picture of it, and say we're going to put it on the gram. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure IA is going to frown on that too.
Yeah, that's true.
If he did post that on Instagram, I'm sure, even though Instagram lets racist Trumpers go free, I'm pretty sure they're going to still have issue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Fucking Instagram.
But then that's when movies like this create a fictional version of Instagram that's more dark web that you can post whatever you want on. And that's what everybody's using now.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like we've delayed it long enough, so let's go ahead and go into the pretty obvious twist at this point. The revelation that his rookie partner, Shank, is not only this Jigsaw copycat, but is also the son of the informant that Zeke's partner shot all those years ago. Which, the revelation of him being the Jigsaw, that's not, but for me, the twist that he was the kid, he was the son of the informant.
Which an early comment, which as I watched the movie, I was like, that's an odd comment, is when they're down in the subway investigating the first death. He's squeamish, he's looking like he's about to throw up, yet he says, I've been dreaming about this since I was 12. I was like, being at a fucking crime scene where somebody got obliterated, you've been dreaming of that since you were 12? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I was like, that was an odd comment.
It's an odd comment, but there's also that idea. I actually like the tone he said it in. He said it almost like sardonically, where he's like going, oh yeah, I've been dreaming about this shit.
Oh yeah. I guess I didn't pick up on the tone of that.
I think I picked it a little bit, but then there was the other thing where he's like, here because of your dad. He started all of this.
I was gonna mention that too. Like, I'm here because of your dad, and I was like, why are you so cop obsessed?
Yeah. Because and again, it's one of the things you don't question, because they also sell us on the fact that his dad was obviously a paragon of the department. Like, everyone really thought of him very highly.
You think of it as a good thing. I'm here because of your dad. Yeah.
Yeah, but and Samuel Jackson, I will say, some have argued he's kind of wasted in this movie because he's barely even in it for the most part. I mean, you get that great intro scene with him and Chris Rock, but then you find out that he has been summoned by this copycat going into.
Yeah, I was gonna mention,
Yeah.
like, around the time we find out that Shank is the killer, for like a second, they try to misdirect you into thinking it's his dad that's doing
Yeah.
this. He's been gone for days. Chris Rock has been trying to call him up for days to find out where he is. In my mind, I'm like, he's a cop. He probably got kidnapped. But the movie wants you for a second to think maybe he's the killer, and that's
Yeah.
the twist, you
And
know.
there are moments where you're seeing that his dad very clearly, or was obviously not happy with the department either, but he was only not happy with them in relation to the way they're treating his son.
Yeah.
But
Very much, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. I don't care if you're a cop. Yeah.
exactly. But nope. It's because he's been advocating, he's actually been condoning all the bullshit his precinct has been doing because of Article 8. And he's the guy who's at the core responsible for all the corruption happening in that department. So, but I loved the big, and even though it's underwhelming to reveal that it's Shank, I do love the exchange of dialogue between him and Zeke. Yeah, like
I like the dialogue. I'm not sure I like how the actor monologues. He sort of talks in this it's sort of like his recordings. The robotic way he has rhythm, it doesn't flow. So it kind of took me out of it when he has these huge monologues at the end of the movie and he's, you know,
he's no Tobin
kind
Bell.
of speaking in a, but yeah, he has like the opposite charisma as Tobin Bell and how he flows with his words. It's like nobody talks like that.
He kind of has a street persona in the way he delivers his dialogue. You know,
Yeah.
you say that now,
And I didn't notice it until the end. I was like, you're fine when you're doing one-liners, but these monologues, my dude, like you're speaking in a bizarre rhythm that nobody speaks in.
It's like when you get the. I wonder if the screenwriters probably were writing for Tobin Bell, but not
possibly.
But yeah, I think they were writing, because I could picture this dialogue being done from hell. I could even see it coming out of Hoffman as well.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, this guy I think may have struggled a bit with that. I mean,
everything I say has a period after I say it.
Yeah.
Live or die, make your choice. I'm like, nobody speaks like this. And you have so
Exactly.
many words.
So many words. But yeah.
But I
of
mean,
course
I liked his energy. I thought he had like a very charismatic energy to him. Like he had this like upbeat spunkiness, the way he like, you know, moved. I don't like the way he said words.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I do love this one line where he goes like, yeah, you want me to help you kill cops? Like, no, fuck no. I want you to help me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I just want to help. Yeah, I just want you to help me kill the bad ones.
Yeah.
And I actually love how Zeke is actually tempted by it. Like, I actually like how he actually says, okay.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like there's a little part of me thinking, I think Zeke actually would have followed along with this had he not done the whole thing with his dad. Like, but
so
like,
discuss what that is.
Oh yeah, so Zeke's ultimate test to see if he truly is legit in his desire to follow Shank in his endeavors, he has propped up Samuel Jackson up in a big rig where his blood is gradually being siphoned off into various jars, and of course there's a race against time scenario. So he has made the decision. He has given Zeke a gun with only one bullet in it. Either shoot the target to release him from his trap and thus perpetuate the cycle. Yeah, or I think perpetuate the cycle of corruption, or kill. Actually, now that I'm thinking, I'm deconstructing it. So I guess release his dad and I guess join him or something. Or actually no, it's a three-way decision. Never mind. Shoot the target, let him go, and of course Shank runs away and all that shit, you know, kind of thing. Two, just let his dad die. Just let him just sit there and hang and just let him die, and they both join each other and they both go off to their little bromance. Or
just guy love.
Or shoot Shank and
which is obviously what his dad wants him to do. Like, don't worry about me, kill this motherfucker.
Yeah, shoot Shank and basically just let the corruption go on forever.
And meanwhile, he has called the SWAT team to come in. Yeah. So he's got this other element of time. Like, you don't have a lot of time. Yeah. The police are coming.
Yeah, exactly. And he also rigged the door with a special wire, which this is where the twist that worked for me, which I fucking loved. So of course Zeke ultimately doesn't go for it, actually tries to subdue. You know, he shoots out the target, releases Samuel, or at least he thinks he released Samuel Jackson. starts to put the smackdown on Shank, but then right when the cops show up, they cut the wire. All of a sudden, in marionette fashion, it makes him look like he's holding a
just like Mr. Snuggles.
Yeah, just like Mr. Snuggles. They foreshadowed it, which was great. Raised him up with the shotgun and made it look, and of course, and the lighting changes so it looks like he's backlit, so they can't see that it's not a real gun. And so Samuel Jackson gets gunned down. I'm pretty sure Zeke gets arrested, and Shank gets away.
Yeah, that's a very quick ending after that happened. I was like, oh, it's over. Okay.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I can't imagine like how you do an epilogue on this shit. I'm like, this is great. This to me, I was good with this. So yeah, that is the ending of Spiral. So yeah, I mean,
so now we have 3 living apprentices running around out there. We got Gordon, we got Logan, and now we have Shank.
Yeah,
who are all options.
I'm hesitant to call Shank an apprentice per se. I'd say more
true.
I'd say more follower.
Yeah.
I'd say more follower in his case.
Yeah,
and again,
true.
that's where I was hoping the franchise would go. The idea that Jigsaw kicked off something of a kind of religion of people who decide to take it in their own hands to punish people.
Yeah.
So, and I like how this guy is very specifically targeting dirty cops. I thought that was actually a really cool angle. So people don't like this one. I have nothing but fondness, and it actually does for me get better every time I watch it. So I actually kind of I'll go to bat for this one. So I don't know. How do you feel?
I didn't mind it. Like I said, it's in the Saw franchise, so I'll say it's a Saw movie, but it's, it's not as bad as some of the other past Saw movies, so I'm not gonna. It's not ranking my lowest by far.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to that when we get to that. But but I'd definitely say this one is not the lowest on my tier as well.
No.
And honestly, it's not going to be the one I'm going to jump to, but I will say I will look forward to it when I go on a binge.
I almost feel like if Saw were to become a TV show, this would have been the plot of it, because it's such a like a departure from some of the stuff Saw has done, and it's like it's not even Jigsaw anymore. It's a totally different guy, which maybe he'll get his own name if they do another Spiral movie. I don't know, but like you can't keep calling this Jigsaw. It's not him.
I'd say this called Spiral. Yeah, call him Spiral
because Spiral. Yeah,
yeah. Well, because he's the one who really goes hard into the spiral imagery. So yeah, just call him Spiral.
The Spiral Killer.
Yeah,
good. Could do that.
Could do that. And actually, you're right. Actually, afterwards they could have done an anthological Saw series where every season it is all about another Jigsaw copycat following the example of John Kramer.
Absolutely could do that.
And every season is about, cops in a respective region, like around America, chasing after a Saw copycat.
Yeah. Who has their own name and their own style and their own. I'd love that idea, because how long can you drag it into it's another Saw movie, but we're gonna throw it randomly in the middle of the franchise? It's like Spiral feels so out of place because then it's followed up by Saw X, which is back to basics.
Yeah, well, back to basics, but back to glory, baby, at the same time. But that is a story for another day. So to wrap up our reflection on Spiral, go ahead and give us your top trap.
It was tough in this one. I think I have to go with the trap that I mean, the puppet's pretty good. It's a pretty damn good ending, but
yeah, it's a great ending.
Trap?
It is a trap because someone set it off without knowing, and that's the definition of a trap.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I think as far as the looks, that's going to be my favorite. I think the one that made me cringe the most is the Chinese finger trap.
I'd say that one is probably my top, just because most of the time you could just like put figures in a vise or something like that. But I love the fact
slow rip, man.
Well, but I also love the fact they use like Chinese finger trap mesh on the fingers. And the other thing that's cool about it is it's not that it's ripping off the finger; it's ripping off the flesh on top of the finger.
Oh yeah,
which I thought was actually really kind of cool. Now, one thing that is a note about this one really got eviscerated by the MPAA, unfortunately. Yeah, this one really, I mean, they had to make so many cuts to this one in order to finally score an R rating on this sucker. Though another funny moment that did happen, of course, one thing that Spiral was doing every time was sending the remnants of each officer to Zeke, and one of them was a box with fingers in it. Well, apparently Darren Lynn Bousman had to go through customs with that.
Oh God, that's gonna be fun.
So yeah, he's like saying, yeah, try being someone, going through customs, explaining why he has a box full of disembodied fingers.
Listen, it's gonna sound crazy. I promise I'm making
Yeah.
a movie.
Yeah, I promise you I'm making a movie. It's like, I'm Daryl Lynn Bowsman, IMDb me. Yeah, I'm making a Saw movie. And yeah, and
Dude,
you know what?
I already worry about going through the airport in general with my fake ass trap. I'm like, they're gonna open up my luggage and be like, "What is this thing?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that is spy. Yeah, I think for me it's the finger trap. Just because, first off, because it is original, and I will say that's
Mhm.
well, actually we'll play that game later. I'll explain why later.
Okay.
So all right, I feel like we've delayed it long enough, but this is us. So actually, to wrap up this entire discussion, these two movies in general, do you think these are I suppose the how do you feel, but it's kind of like I'm frustrated because effort was put into these, and these were two films that were designed specifically to experiment with the format to try to move the series beyond in order to just kind of keep it alive. But it's debatable whether or not these were successful. So, I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think I think people see Spiral as its own thing, honestly. I think Jigsaw was right, it was an attempt to see if they could revive the series after several years of nothing going on. I think there's a reason why it kind of feels like a one-off, just like they
Yeah,
tried. I don't think they're going to do much else with it. I mean, I think what they've discovered is going back in time is the move because you're
yeah,
going to bring back characters people really care about. We're not doing this twice, third times removed from Jigsaw thing anymore. It's like just bring the actual killer back, bring the characters we love back. And I think they hit their stride moving forward after Spiral.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's exactly that. I'd
Yeah.
love it if they take. I'd love it if they acknowledge it in the future and hopefully do something with all the stuff they've established in these. But you know how Hollywood is, and you know how they'll either retcon or just ignore something
Yeah.
if the mass consensus didn't like it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Now, granted, I mean, for those who don't know, we're pretty much going to be going back to back recording these. So uh, typically I do my recommendation of whatever I just watched recently. But actually, let's take turns. In this case, for you, what did you watch recently that you'd like to tell people about, either new or old?
I just watched Underwater.
Oh
It's
wow,
on Tubi. Yeah.
yeah, the one with
Yeah.
Kirsten Stewart. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's one that I know did like no business originally, or like no one didn't think of anything of. But that's
Right.
one gradually I've noticed people have been kind of actually really starting to come back and start to appreciate a bit more. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it was very Eldritch Cthulhian horror. So if that's something you're into, if you love the Lovecraft imagery, I believe that's
mhm.
a good one. Also space. It's a space movie, which I don't think anybody expected those two genres to come together just like that, but
Well, I mean, what is the underbelly of the ocean if just a whole other universe to which we have not
right.
explored?
And then another obvious one that you turned me on to is of course The Substance.
Yeah, yeah, in a previous podcast I've already raved about my love of the
Mm-hmm.
substance, but you go ahead and tell us about your love of the substance because we can't
Uh,
I
the I knew I was gonna like the movie before I saw anything about it just because of the plot, the subject matter, the idea of an aging actress trying to regain her relevance through insane means is always interesting to me because it's a
Yeah.
very human thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, being a Hollywood star has to have some psychological effect on you when you start losing some of that fame, especially
Yeah.
for somebody like her character who's very vain and needs to be loved and
Yeah.
doesn't love herself at all, and it results in horrific solutions.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Actually, you don't know this, but I just literally yesterday recorded a podcast all about the substance. So everyone just go ahead and go to that.
Yes.
We talk long about the substance. So I'm glad that I was so delighted when you showed me that, you in the theater, like right before you
Yeah.
watched it. I'm like,
So like,
oh
yeah. Yeah. I went by
yeah.
myself because I couldn't find somebody with a stomach to go with me. So I was like, fine. I don't usually go to theaters by myself, but I need to see this movie.
Oh no, yeah. And was actually, I got to ask, was your theater full?
No, it was like me and four other
Oh,
people.
that's a bummer.
I went like second or third week it was out though.
Gotcha. Now, I will say that was one. Typically, I hate, being in theaters with people because more because unfortunately, if you're in a theater with like other people and it's like almost empty, a lot of times that they'll even more so want to be a dick because they think like no one's gonna care. It's a big old empty theater. They're not gonna hear me. It's like fucker, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, shut up. But this is one of those times I'll say I love having a lot of people in the theater because to see, especially the second time around, I went to go see it, the looks on their faces.
Movie is absurd in all the best ways.
All right. Well, when we get to Saw X, I will tell you all the crazy shit I've been watching recently. I've actually been kind of going into overdrive because I want to overtake how many new horror films I saw from last year. Last year I hit 175. This year I want to break that record. So
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. So stay tuned, everybody. We are going to be getting into Saw X and very soon, so we can finally wrap this baby up. So for everyone, stay tuned. And if you wish to delve deep into the dark bowels of human imagination, ask yourself the simple question: what's in the podcast?
Thank you for joining us on this edition of What's in the Podcast. If you find yourself hungry for more deep cuts into the gloriously morbid and macabre, you can also find us on TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Narcotic Casserole. You can also follow us on Instagram at Narcotic Casserole 25. Also on Twitter. Yes, Twitter. Elon can suck it. At Narcotic Casser 1. NARCOTICCASSER 1. Follow us if you dare.